Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff with Fluent American checking in. And today we're going to be focusing in our live session, we're going to be focusing on the names of different countries, starting with the ones that most of my students seem to struggle with the most for pronunciation. I've also included a list of the countries we'll talk about in the chat box. But if there are other countries that you would like to discuss or you have questions about for pronunciation, feel free to let me know. So, if you're studying American English, you're studying pronunciation of specific sounds, this will be a great practice for you. Um, I also know, of course, that this is just how countries will be pronounced in the US. I'm not saying that these are the correct pronunciations for your different countries and things like that. It's just how people will pronounce them in the US. Just something to keep in mind. Our first one here, Brazil. Brazil. A couple things here. So notice here that bruh sound with that schwa, bruh, like in fun or but, bruh, bruh. And then you get the short I sound, zil. It's not zeal, it's not seal, it's z with a voice sound and then a short I, zil, Brazil. If that short I is hard, just a couple quick reminders: lower the front of your tongue, sides of your tongue should touch your top teeth. Zil. It's almost like you're biting the sides of your tongue. Zil, Brazil. Also note that the stress is on the second syllable. Brazil. The zil should be the strongest part. Next one, China. China. Ironically, China can be somewhat of a difficult word to say for Mandarin speakers. Um, because of that sound at the end, it's that n. It's not nar, it's more n. China, China. Just a real soft n sound, very relaxed. Also that I sound, so it's not try, it's chai. See if you can again hear the difference between I and I. You want the second one, I, China. You see this sound in lots of country names. You see it in even in America, or this next word too, Russia. Make sure that sound is really clear. Russia. Next word tends to be one of the hardest country names for people to pronounce because there's a lot happening in it. Italy. Short I sound, fast D sound, schwa sound, and an ending with a long I sound. These are all sounds that on their own can be difficult. So to put them all into one word can be a challenge. Italy. Italy. So start off again with that short I sound, then a fast D. So it's not ita, it's usually more ita. Then you get your schwa sound, the that's your schwa. Again, your mouth is super relaxed, raising just slightly the front of your tongue, and your mouth is mostly closed. Ida. Notice my lips. The not very open, not much movement. It's just the ida. And then lastly, you want to make sure you're holding that Lee sound. Lee, Italy. So it's not Italy, it's not Italy, it's Italy. Our next one, Morocco. Morocco. Again, you're starting off with a schwa sound, mer, and then you're immediately going to an ah sound. So open your mouth wide, back of your tongue down, front of your tongue down. Morocco, Morocco, Morocco. Next one, France. And this is a tricky combination. I'll post a link to this sound in the lesson notes in the comments afterwards because this is hard. This is that a sound plus an n, so you get like an and. Notice so again, it's almost like an a sound, but because we have that nasal, that n, what we're going to do is you're going to feel your tongue sliding back a little bit, and then when you get to that n, you're going to get a heavy breath out of your nose. And, and, France. Notice also that NCE makes almost like an NTS sound. Ants, France. So it's not France. It's not France. It's France. Our next one, Japan. Japan. Again, you have that and sound as well on that second syllable. First syllable is going to be reduced. So schwa sound. Japan. 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 Also watch out. Some speakers have a hard time with that N at the end of words. You want to make sure when you're pronouncing that N that's at the end of a word, you're making it with the back of your tongue down and the front of your tongue high. So if you make it the opposite way, so if you make it with the back of your tongue high, some language groups do this. So for instance, Mandarin, what tends to happen for ends at the end of words is the back of your tongue is a little too high. So it sounds more like Japan, but it's Japan, Japan. Again, back of your tongue down, front of your tongue high, Japan. Next one, Ghana, Ghana. Again, ah sound, then again that sound again that we've seen. Ghana, Ghana, or Ghana, Ghana. You may hear an aw sound or you may hear an ah sound. You'll hear both from native speakers. Just heads up. Colombia, Colum, reduced, lum, colum. So you get like an unstressed schwa followed by a stressed schwa sound. It's like Columbia, Columbia. And again, holding that sound at the end. Again, we have that sound. And something else that you can do to make this sound more natural is link the e. So it's not it's Columbia, Columbia. So like adding like a y sound, the y between the I and the A. That's just going to help make it sound a lot more natural. Colombia, Colombia. Panama, Panama. And again, what you're going to hear, lots of schwa sounds again. You start off with that and sound that we just talked about. Okay, pan, and. So it's not pan. Okay, it's more pan. Hey, what's up, Ibrahim? If you have some countries that you want to hear, be sure to let me know. It's good to see. Panama, so you get like those two schwa sounds. Panama, Panama, Panama. Next one, Venezuela, Venezuela. Stress third syllable. Way, Venezuela. So it's like an A sound with a W at the start. Way, Venezuela, Venezuela. Also, again, you have that sound at the end. Notice this sound is everywhere at the end of words. Super, super, super common. Okay. Our next one, Belarus, Belarus. Stressing that last syllable. Belarus, Belarus. Followed by Ukraine, Ukraine. And again, making sure that that A sound, so it's not crying, it's crane, crane. Oh, we want to talk about some states too. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment. So again, Ukraine, A sound, A. So it's not cry, it's more cray, cray. Raising that front of your tongue, lowering the back, and opening your mouth wide. A, cray, crane, Ukraine. Next one, England, England. Notice it's not England, it's England. It gets reduced. So instead of gland, it's more glind, glind. Almost like a short I sound, glind. England. Other thing you want to watch out for is that NG. So that ng sound, you're raising the back of your tongue, lowering the front of your tongue. You should also feel the air going out of your nose. England, England, England. Similar to that, staying in the UK, Ireland, Ireland. So it almost sounds like three syllables. I, like in like time or fine, I, and then adding that sound. Ire, ire. Notice that my jaw just kind of snaps closed. Ire, ire, Ireland. And again, same thing that we just saw with England, Ireland, same thing with the lind. Okay, it gets reduced. So instead of land, it's more lind. Ireland, Ireland. Also make sure you're stressing the first syllable. Stress the I. Ireland. Next one, Jamaica. Jamaica. A sound again like in take. Open mouth wide. Raise the front of your tongue. Jamaica. First syllable is reduced. Jamaica. And then you get another k, sound again. Jamaica. 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 Indonesia. Indonesia. This is a relatively rare sound in English, the zh. Zh. You see this in words like pleasure, or leisure. Indonesia. To make that zh, what you do is you kind of, it's not the front of your tongue, it's more like the middle of your tongue. So like right there. That's the part that's going to make contact with the top of your mouth. And then you should feel it. Make sure your throat's vibrating. So it's not sh, it's more zh, zh. You need to make sure your throat's vibrating right here. Zh, zh. When you say that, you should feel vibration. Indonesia. And a lot of times that O sound is maintained, even though the stress is on the third syllable. You'll often hear people stress it, or at least have a stressed vowel sound. Indonesia. It's not usually Indonesia. It's a lot of times Indonesia. Our next one, Thailand. Thailand. Key thing here again, that T is actually going to maintain that T sound. It's not like thigh or thy. It's Thai. Thailand. Thailand. Also, relatively unique here is that for Thailand, the land is actually pronounced. So we saw in England or Ireland, it's reduced, but for Thailand, you usually are going to pronounce the an sound ah. It does not usually get reduced. Thailand, Thailand. Vietnam, Vietnam. Stress the last syllable, the nam. And again, you have that ah sound. Vietnam, ah sound. And also notice for the Viet, Viet. So you get a long I followed by a short I, and it's going to be joined with a slight y sound. Viet, Viet. So it's not Viet, it's Viet, Viet, like yit, yit. Again, like a Y sound is starting it. Viet, Vietnam, Vietnam. Those are all the countries that I had. I see a couple other things here. Let's talk really quick about the states. So in the US, if you ever go to Boston, that's pretty much the biggest thing to see in this state. The state will be pronounced as Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Pronunciation is a little tricky. The spelling is even worse, but focusing on the pronunciation. Ma, a sound like in cat. Massa, schwa sound, reduce it. Massa, then chew, ooh sound. Notice what I'm doing here. Ooh, chew, chew. Small round lips, just like in choose. Small round lips. Front of your tongue is down, back of your tongue is high. Chew, chew. And then you get sits, sits. Again, like a short I sound, like sits, like he sits down. Massachusetts, 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 Massachusetts. And you're going to stress the chew. That's the syllable to stress. Massachusetts. After that, we have Switzerland, Switzerland, Switzer. Notice that TZ sound is going to sound like almost more like a TS. Switzer, Switz. It's not Switzer. A lot of time you'll just hear like Switzerland, Switzerland. If you want to make it voiced, you can. You can say Switzerland. You can say that. But a lot of times you'll hear people pronounce it unvoiced or voiceless. Switzer, Switzer. And then the Lind part, again, is like England or Ireland. It's going to get reduced. Okay, it's like Switzerland, Switzerland. Again, like that Lind sound. So if there's any common things that you want to really focus on for country names, you want to focus on a sound at the end. So for instance, Russia, China, America, Indonesia. You want to focus on those sounds. You want to focus on these Lind type sounds. Ibrahim, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. You want to focus on O sounds. A lot of countries end on O sounds as well, strong O's like Mexico. That's also really popular for city names as well, like for instance, San Francisco, Chicago. So strong O sounds. And of course, you want to focus on your schwa sound. So if the schwa is a difficult sound for you, that sound, like in fun, that's a sound that you really want to focus on for country names because many countries have reductions in how they're pronounced. So you want to make sure you're pronouncing that correctly. And again, we see lots of these words have reductions like Panama, um, Morocco, Morocco. English spelling is definitely a tricky thing. A lot of people say that, oh, English spelling, it makes no sense. Well, the truth is that it does make sense, but the problem is that English is pulling from so many different languages. So we have note about cholera. Jordy, thanks for joining us. Um, English is just pulling from so many different languages. It's pulling from Greek, it's pulling from Latin, it's pulling from French, it's pulling from German, it's pulling from Anglo-Saxon languages. And all these things are coming together. So if you know what language a word comes from, that makes the spelling a lot easier. They do spelling competitions in the US, and it's like for kids. If you ever heard of like Spelling Beast, that's something to check out. Um, See, there's competitions for spelling. If you're a kid, you can win lots of money for doing it. But one of the things that kids can do if they're not sure where is they can ask, what where the word comes from. Because if you know again where the word comes from, that really gives you ideas about the spelling. It helps out a ton. Um, but most people don't know what language the word comes from, so it becomes super difficult to practice spelling. But yeah, spelling it can be tricky. I know when I was in school, the way we learned spelling was it's not fun. You just write a word 100 times, and then if you spell it wrong, then you have to write it 200 times. And then if you spell it wrong again, then you spell it 300 times, and it kind of just goes like that. You just do it over and over. Um, Talking more about states, talking about Colorado, Colorado. You'll see that stress on that third syllable. And again, you'll see that strong O sound at the end. Auto. Notice that that D is not really a super strong D either. It's more like a fast D sound. Same thing that we saw, for instance, in Italy. Same sound like that fast, quick. Ita, auto, Colorado. The first syllable of Colorado, you want to make sure your mouth is wide and your tongue is down. Back your tongue down, front of your tongue down. Ka, ka, and then lur, collar. Almost like collar, like for instance, like a dog. When you take a dog on a walk with a leash, you put a collar around their neck. Okay. Um, it's the same thing here. Collar, Colorado. Okay. You can't pronounce it that way. You may also hear people that reduce it a little more, like kala. It's a kala. It's more kala, Colorado. Yeah, so you hear a couple different things, but you want to make sure that the strong O sound at the end. Okay. Um, I'll stay on for another little bit in case people have other questions, but those are the main words that I have for you in terms of countries and things like that. Also, quick plugs, of course. If you're not subscribed to us, please do consider it. We try to get some content out for you regularly throughout the week. Every day, we're trying to post a little something, whether it's a tongue twister or some shadowing exercises. Please be sure to let me know as well which types of videos you find to be most effective. So, for instance, if you really like the shadowing videos, really let me know that. So that's why I can know what to really focus on. So I want to make sure I'm giving you guys things that are most helpful for you. We also have Facebook groups to pay attention to. We also have a WhatsApp group as well for pronunciation and another one for speaking. So if those are things you're interested in, please be sure to join us because we want to have you with us. Yep. As always, my name is Jeff. Thank you guys for your time. Ibrahim and Jordy, thank you guys for your comments and suggestions for words. If you think of some other states or countries or places that we didn't get to today, feel free to shoot a message or leave a comment and we can include them in a future video. Thank you guys for your time. Ibrahim leaving me with the cliffhanger. With the by the way, trying to think of other things I need to say too. Oh, our next video, which will be coming out tomorrow, is going to be focusing on speed. So one thing I noticed is if you take a sentence from a native speaker, like let's say you record it, and then you record yourself trying to say the same sentence, are you able to say that sentence in the same amount of time? Or do you say it faster? Or do you say it slower? And one thing I see with a lot of my students is they actually say things faster than the native speaker does. And that's because they're saying their stressed words so quickly that it's kind of losing some of its impact. It's losing some of its effect. So that's what our next video is going to be talking about a little bit. Is just trying to say slow down because what I see with students a lot is they there's almost this fear. Oh, question about my name. So you're pronouncing things. There's almost this fear of speaking too slowly. Like if you're a language learner, you're like, oh my gosh, beginner students speak slow. I don't want to be like that. I want to speak quickly. I want to sound native like. When the reality is that Yes, it's true that beginner students do speak slowly, but speaking slowly isn't a bad thing. Native speakers, there are some places where you're going to actually slow down and it's going to make it sound more natural. So if that is a something that you are interested in practicing, keep an eye out for that video. I hope to have it done tomorrow. In terms of my name, yep. So I personally spell my name like Jeff with a G, but for Jeff with a J, it is pronounced exactly the same. There's no difference in the pronunciation. So how can you tell which is which? Well, you just have to kind of ask the person or see their signature or something like that to know if it's spelled a G or a J. The J is much, much, much more common. The G is much less common. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. I'm going to go get ready for my next class, but I hope you have a good weekend. As always, if you have ideas for future videos that would be helpful for you, let me know. And take care. Thanks for joining us. Bye.